My pull-ups went backwards, not stalled, not plateaued. Backwards. 15 clean reps dropped to 12 over 6 months of training. 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if I felt guilty about resting. Every session logged, every rep counted, every angle analyzed. From the outside, it looked like discipline. From the inside, it felt like panic disguised as consistency. I wasn't skipping workouts. I wasn't slacking. I was doing exactly what I thought I was supposed to do, and somehow getting weaker. That contradiction ate at me more than the lost reps. Hard work is supposed to compound, not regress. Every rep looked perfect. That was the part one was proud of. Slow eccentrics, chest to bar, scapula locked down and back like I'd memorized anatomy textbooks. If someone filmed my sets, they'd nod approvingly. This was clean training. This was smart training. I wasn't flailing, kipping, or cheating. I was controlled, methodical, and calm. And because the reps looked good, I assumed the work was good. I never questioned whether clean reps were actually productive reps. If anything, I wore the cleanliness as proof I was doing things right. I tracked everything obsessively. Sets, reps, tempo, rest times, even how I felt before and after each session. I told myself this was what serious training looked like. But beneath all that structure was a growing confusion. My numbers weren't moving. Worse, they were slipping. Every week felt heavier, harder, slower. I wasn't getting injured. I wasn't sick. I was just fading. The more data I collected, the less sense it made. I had evidence of effort, but no evidence of progress. That's when the doubts started, quiet at first, then loud. Maybe I'd hit my genetic limit. Maybe my leverages were wrong. Maybe I just wasn't built for strength. It's scary how fast the mind turns inward when progress disappears. Instead of questioning methods, I questioned myself. I doubled down on discipline. More days, more precision, more control. If weakness was the problem, surely more correctness would fix it. It didn't. Eventually, frustration overpowered ego. I stopped asking, "What's wrong with me?" and started asking, "What if I'm doing something fundamentally wrong?" That shift mattered. Looking back, I wasn't failing because I lacked effort. I was failing because I was making 5 interconnected mistakes, each one reinforcing the others. Together, they formed a loop that kept me tired, weak, and confused. The first mistake was also the most seductive. The perfect form trap. I believed perfect form equaled safe training, and safe training equaled progress. Any breakdown, any deviation, any ugly rep felt like a threat. If form slipped even slightly, the set was over. No exceptions. Coaches preach form for good reason, but I turned it into a religion. I wasn't training muscles anymore. I was performing technique. And performances end the moment they stop looking good. My pull-up sets followed the same script every time. Reps 1 through 10 were flawless. 11 slowed down but still clean. 12 was hard, but the chin cleared the bar with control. Then I'd drop off. Set finished. Not because I failed, but because I decided I should. I'd rack it as a successful set and move on, satisfied that I'd protected myself from risk. What I didn't realize was that I'd protected myself from growth too. Those last 3 or 4 reps never happened. The reps where speed drops. The reps where coordination breaks down slightly. The reps where your body gets the message that what you're doing isn't enough anymore. I was training far from failure while telling myself I was close. The irony was painful. I thought I was pushing my limits. In reality, I was orbiting them at a safe distance. One day, out of frustration more than confidence, I ignored the internal referee. I kept pulling. Rep 13 was slow and uncomfortable. Rep 14 felt like the bar weighed double. Rep 15 barely cleared. My body shook, my breathing spiked, and my form wasn't pretty. Rep 16 didn't happen. I dropped off the bar stunned, not exhausted, but enlightened. I hadn't suddenly gotten stronger. I'd just finally trained hard. That single set reframed months of training. I wasn't weak. I was understimulated. I had confused neat execution with effective effort. Strength doesn't respond to aesthetics. It responds to demand, and I hadn't been demanding much at all. Those ugly reps weren't failures of discipline, they were the actual work I'd been avoiding. That's when reps in reserve finally made sense. Rear isn't about guessing how tired you feel, it's about proximity to failure. Zero rear means nothing left. 1 or 2 RIR means you're close enough to force adaptation. I thought I was stopping at 2 rear, I was stopping at 5. The most reliable signal wasn't how I felt, but how the reps moved. If speed wasn't slowing, the set wasn't doing its job. I adjusted my rules. The first 8 to 10 reps stayed strict and controlled. After that, I allowed effort to show. Slight momentum, slightly reduced range, slower grinding reps. As long as I controlled the negative and stayed safe, I kept going. It felt wrong at first, like breaking a sacred law. But strength doesn't care about my comfort with imperfection. Fixing intensity exposed the next problem, frequency. I was training 6 days a week, telling myself more exposure meant faster gains. In reality, I was never fresh. Every session bled into the next. I was always slightly tired, slightly weaker, slightly under-recovered. Hard sets require recovery. Without it, intensity becomes theoretical. I cut back to 3 or 4 days a week and condensed the volume. Fewer sessions, but each one demanded focus and effort. Instead of floating through workouts, I attacked them. Recovery stopped being an afterthought and started becoming part of the plan. For the first time in months, I felt strong walking into sessions instead of drained. Then came rest periods. I used to rush them, believing shorter rest meant harder training. All it really meant was weaker sets. Longer rest allowed every set to be productive. Reps stayed higher. Effort stayed real. Fatigue accumulated where it mattered, inside the set, not between them. Another mistake became obvious. Program hopping. I chased novelty constantly. New variations, new skills, new goals every few weeks. Nothing stuck long enough to progress. Strength needs repetition over time. Variety kept my brain entertained, but my body confused. I committed to a small number of movements and stuck with them. Same exercises, week after week. Progress stopped being hypothetical. Numbers moved, reps increased. Effort translated into results because the target stayed the same. I also cut volume. Instead of doing everything, I did less but harder. 4 to 8 hard sets per session replaced endless mediocre work. Fatigue made sense again. Soreness had a purpose. I wasn't surviving workouts, I was adapting to them. Over 12 weeks, my pull-ups climbed from 12 back to 15, then past it, all the way to 18. I trained fewer days, rested more, and pushed harder where it counted. Confidence returned, not because I felt motivated, but because progress is motivating. The real lesson wasn't about pull-ups, it was about effort. I'd confused activity with intensity, discipline with effectiveness, perfection with progress. Strength came back when I embraced controlled struggle, when I stopped hiding behind clean reps and gave my body a real reason to change.